My parents went on a boat trip with my sister, got caught in a tsunami, and they all died in the accident. I was left with a mountain of debt just as I was about to start university. The tuition I'd scraped together and the house my parents left were both seized by debt collectors, leaving me no choice but to work under the table at some shady factory. I worked 16-hour shifts, lived in a crumbling 10-bed dorm, and ate nothing but watery gruel. After finally paying off all the debts, I stumbled upon my supposedly dead sister on TV, now a famous dancer, with our parents even giving interviews about her. They'd taken out a massive loan, faked their deaths, and fled to Paris for my sister's dance training, dumping all the debt on me right as I was starting college. I went to demand answers, but got thrown out and ended up crushed by a speeding truck on the roadside. That fucking jinx. Couldn't she have croaked somewhere farther away? Once again, I was back on the day they faked their deaths. Grandma's piercing wails snapped me out of my daze. The pain of being crushed by the truck still lingered in my bones. I looked up. 3 bodies lay neatly covered in white sheets at the memorial altar. My grandmother wailed beside me, "Oh, why'd my boy go so young?" Go? What a joke. I almost laughed. These 3 were alive and well. Don't let Grandma's age fool you, her acting chops are still sharp. Mom, stop crying. Let's just get this over with so they can rest. Auntie Sophie shot me a sideways look while murmuring comforting words to Grandma. My Aunt Sophie Chen is a doctor at the hospital and signed off on my parents' and sister's death certificates. Last time around, I was too grief-stricken to do more than glance at the bodies. Auntie handled all the arrangements herself. The next day, 3 urns and a mountain of debt showed up. I glared at them coldly, alive and well, yet pulling off this whole heartbroken act right in my face. The death certificates were signed by my aunt. She definitely knew about my parents' scheme but never breathed a word to me. Even in my previous life when debt collectors came knocking, I did beg Aunt Sophie to loan me some cash just to finish college, promising to pay her back bit by bit after graduation. The first time I went, she turned me down, and the second time around, she'd already applied to study in Germany. Since Grandma was old, the entire debt was dumped on me alone. I managed to get into Capital University but couldn't even go and ended up dropping out. I was working multiple jobs every day, but the creditors still hounded me about slow payments and dragged me into an illegal sweatshop. I worked 16-hour shifts every day with a monthly salary of just over $10,000, but only $500 ended up in my hands. The rest got taken out straight to the repayment account. I scrimped and saved, ate nothing but plain meals every day, and barely clawed my way out of all that debt. But I never imagined all this was just a scam targeting me. My parents never died, they took out a huge loan, dragged my sister abroad to learn dance, and dumped all the debt on me. They sucked me dry just to make her a star. I was just a blood bank, a cash cow bankrolling their perfect little family life. This time, right under my nose, let's see how they pull off their fake death stunt. All the relatives and friends were busy comforting Grandma and Aunt, but nobody gave a damn about me. It wasn't until Auntie shoved me so hard I landed on my knees that the others finally turned their attention my way. "You little brat, why couldn't it be you instead? You cursed jinx." My blank face must have pissed Grandma off. She whacked me across the back with her cane. The force was so strong it snapped me awake. Hey! Don't hit her, she's just a kid." A relative stepped in, but Grandma kept glaring at me and snarled. "This damned brat probably brought death upon her parents and sister. She's always been weird and unlikable, and now that her own parents are dead, she doesn't even cry. What an ungrateful brat." Faced with the odd stares and hushed whispers around me, I couldn't care less to explain. I just got up and walked over, yanking off the white cloth while they weren't looking. Before Grandma could start yelling, I lunged at my sister Ruby Chen and smashed my fist into her chest. "You're liars. Don't try to trick me, my parents and Ruby are alive and kicking, they're not dead. Stop jinxing them like that." I purposely messed up my hair, faking a breakdown while hammering my fists against my sister's chest. Ruby, wake up. Why are you still sleeping? Stop messing with me." Every punch I threw was with all my strength, looking like a heartbroken girl desperately performing CPR on my sister to outsiders. But my sister lying there probably wasn't feeling too great. Getting hit several times and acting like nothing was wrong must have been so hard on her. Grandma and Auntie's faces twisted as they rushed to yank me back. "You brat, stop hurting your sister." Since I was putting on an act, I had to commit to the bit. I darted over to my parents and repeated the same move, pounding their chests hard several more times while shouting, "No way. My parents aren't dead. I'm gonna give 'em CPR, they'll come back for sure." Grandma and my aunt couldn't hold me back, cursing and screaming from the side. A bunch of relatives rushed over trying to grab hold of me. I figured I'd caused enough chaos, so I settled down and let them drag me to a chair. Then I forced out a few crocodile tears. "I don't believe this. Just 2 days ago, Mom and Dad were taking Ruby out, telling me to go earn my own damn tuition. How could they just die today? Aunt, you're the one who signed the death certificate. Did you even check everything properly? Are my parents really dead?" I stared hard at my aunt, everyone's eyes turning to her. A cold sweat broke out on her forehead as she raised her voice, trying to steel herself. "Of course. I've been a doctor for years, you think I'd screw up a basic death certificate? These are my own brother, sister-in-law, and niece lying here. Why would I hurt my own flesh and blood? They're my own brother, sister-in-law, and niece lying here, how could I ever hurt them?" While my aunt addressed the crowd, I stole a sideways glance at the three figures lying motionless. I was sure of my strength. I'd been hauling heavy stuff around the house since I could walk. Even if their ribs weren't broken, they'd definitely be bruised from those punches. It's a wonder they managed to stay completely still. Especially my sister, she'd been spoiled rotten since she was a kid. If I so much as brushed against her by accident, she'd run to tell our parents and I'd get beaten. I'll see how long they can keep this up. "Lily Chen, how much longer are you gonna keep this up?" Grandma glared daggers at me. "You just have to keep stirring up trouble in the family, huh? Your parents were already fed up with your antics when they were alive, and now they're gone, you still won't let them rest in peace, is that it?" Grandma probably didn't even notice herself, but when she said "passed away," her eyes flickered for a split second. I ignored her and scanned the room. Grandma and Aunt knew they were faking their deaths, all that grief was just an act. The others only showed up out of slight family obligation. It's so funny how no one was actually sad at this fake funeral. Wait, Grandpa and Grandma aren't here. They live way out in the countryside. After my parents faked their deaths in my past life, I was stuck working to pay off debts day and night. From the moment I opened my eyes each morning, I had to work and couldn't even think about anything else. Now that I think about it, it's strange I haven't heard from Grandpa and Grandma at all or even gotten any messages from them. I was raised by my grandparents when I was little. So I wasn't that close with my parents. It wasn't until after my sister was born and I had to start school that I came to live with them. So Grandpa and Grandma might be clueless, Mom probably fed them some story and they never thought to contact me. At that, I blurted out, "How come Grandpa and Grandma aren't here for something this big? Did nobody even tell them?" "I'm calling them now." I pulled out my phone to call, and from the corner of my eye, I caught Mom's fingers twitching slightly. Aunt grabbed my phone, looking nervous. "Lily, don't tell your grandparents yet. They're not in good health, let's not risk upsetting them. We'll handle this later. The top priority now is to get your parents and sister cremated. It's sweltering out here, bodies can't last days without rotting and stinking up the place. I've already got it all sorted, so no need for you to worry." "But that doesn't make sense, Aunt." I wiped away a tear, putting on a fragile yet resolute look. They're my own parents after all. With things being like this, how can I not step up as their daughter and sister? I just made a call and got it all sorted. The best crematorium's on the way, they'll be here in 5 minutes. Just send Mom, Dad, and my sister straight there. No need for you to bother, Auntie. Aunt suddenly panicked. "Oh, you child, why didn't you talk to me first before deciding on your own? Cancel it now, cancel it. But Aunt, I looked up at her in confusion. Didn't you say we should cremate them quickly in this heat so they can rest in peace? It's just 5 minutes, I'll make sure it's done fast. Oh, that's not what I meant. With everyone watching, my aunt couldn't come up with a good reason to talk me down and just kept pacing around like crazy. They'd already planned everything out. They got some people to pose as crematorium staff, claiming to take the 3 for cremation, but actually sending them to the airport. Because of me, their plans got messed up. My aunt and grandma were panicking. They couldn't just let crematorium workers come haul away living people to be burned. Watching them turn red and barely get a word out was killing me inside, but I kept my face all serious-like. Don't worry, Auntie. I'm not a kid anymore, I've grown up. The relatives looked at me and nodded in agreement. Lily's really grown up now, such a responsible young lady helping out the family and everything. Poor kid, she's about to start college and now this whole mess happens at home. What are we gonna do now? They seemed to have forgotten Grandma's earlier scolding and began clucking their tongues in pity. We'll have them cremated tomorrow. In the end, Grandma made the final call. She shot me a sharp look and said in that no-nonsense tone. Let your mom, dad, and sister stay home one more day. This poor old woman only had 2 children, and he was my only son, now gone like this. If you just burn them now, isn't that like ripping my heart out? Let them stay home one more day. Just think of it as keeping this old lady company. Since Grandma had made her stance clear, I couldn't keep pushing to send them to the crematorium. If that's how Grandma wants it, fine. I'll call them up and have them bring over a few ice coffins first. I looked outside. It's scorching out there in July, hitting 43 degrees. Leave them overnight and they'll be rotting with maggots by morning. When my parents were alive, they were all about keeping things clean. How can we let them get so dirty now that they're gone? My point made sense, and even Grandma couldn't argue back. She just shot me another glare. After the coffins arrived, I had a couple relatives help me get the 3 of them inside and switched on the refrigeration. I quietly turned the AC down a little more. Let them freeze for a bit. While everyone was outside holding the wake, I quietly seized the chance to sneak into my parents' room and rummage through their stuff thoroughly. Finally, I got my hands on it. My parents' organ donor consent forms. I called the hospital using the number on the form to get them to come over, then looked it up on Baidu and made some calls to media outlets. Honestly, my parents weren't exactly into the whole organ donation thing to begin with. Once, my sister wasn't happy with how her double eyelids looked, so she decided to get them done. The hospital was running a promotion where signing an organ donor form would get you half off double eyelid surgery. If I hadn't seen my sister's perfectly straight Euro-style double eyelids out there just now, I probably wouldn't have remembered this. In less than 10 minutes, hospital staff and the media showed up, packing the living room to the brim. Coincidentally, the person from the hospital turned out to be my aunt's boss. When Auntie saw her boss arrive, she looked a bit panicked and put on a flattering smile, saying, Director Zhang, what brings you here today? Oh, Xiao Chen, was the deceased related to you? They're my brother and his wife, my aunt answered, forcing composure. Any issues, Director? I heard your brother and sister-in-law passed away. My condolences. The director offered some condolences before moving to the main issue. Actually, your brother and sister-in-law signed an organ donation agreement when they were alive, agreeing to donate their organs to the hospital for free after death. As soon as Grandma heard organ donation, she started kicking up a fuss. Who the hell is so heartless? My son's already gone, and you want to dig out his insides? Won't even let him rest peaceful in his grave. I'm telling you, there's no way I'm allowing this. It's normal for the deceased's family to react like this, and many of the older folks present clearly disapproved. Yeah, cutting him open even after he's gone? That's just cruel. That's so disrespectful to the dead. Everyone was chattering away, and Auntie pretended to look uneasy as she turned to the director. Sorry, Director Zhang, we had no idea my brother and his wife signed this agreement. How about we just forget about this organ donation thing? Director Zhang pulled out a copy. Look, you're part of the hospital staff, you should know how this works. We can't bring people back, but their organs could save lives. My aunt took the document, her hands shaking as she saw my parents' signatures and thumbprints stamped alongside the hospital's official seal on the consent form. She forced a smile, but we really can't handle this. Maybe we should just drop it? Well, the director waved his hand, it's actually quite a coincidence. The tycoon's son who's been hospitalized here has heart failure. His father's been desperately trying to find a matching heart for transplant, but hasn't had any luck until now. They'd run a match before and turns out your brother's heart was a perfect fit, but he was still alive back then, so we never mentioned it. What a coincidence. The billionaire had us rushed over as soon as he got the news. He's willing to pay 10 million to compensate the family. 10 million. All the relatives were stunned by that number. Wow, a regular person couldn't make 10 million in their whole life. The tycoon is so generous. Just a moment ago, everyone was arguing against organ donation, but now they suddenly went quiet. This is 10 million. A regular person couldn't make that much even if they slaved away their entire lifetime without spending a single cent. At first, everyone looked at me with pity, thinking I was about to become an orphan and wondering how I'd survive. But now, their eyes immediately lit up with greed. To a lone girl like me, 10 million is like dangling fresh meat in a pack of hungry wolves. They're probably scheming how to squeeze money out of me. I know these people all too well. I rubbed my eyes until they turned red and bloodshot. I took 2 steps forward and said to the director, since Dad's heart could save someone, just take it then. When he was alive, Dad always loved helping people and regularly donated to those in need. If he knew his heart could save someone's life, he'd be over the moon. I looked around at my relatives and said, you're all my family, and I know this whole thing has caused you so much trouble. After my parents and sister are laid to rest, I'll set aside 1 million from the billionaire's funds for Grandma's retirement and my college expenses. The rest will be split evenly among everyone here. Thanks for all your help. With around a dozen relatives there, splitting the money evenly meant each person would bag at least 700 or 800 grand. This was like hitting the jackpot. Everyone looked at each other until finally someone stepped up. Since you put it that way, Lily, we won't stand on ceremony. So we need to help get the body to the hospital for organ removal, right? Come on, everyone, let's pitch in and get him to the hospital. The relatives helped load him and the coffin into the car. While the media nearby kept filming non-stop, live-streaming every detail of the scene. The netizens were also going wild. Holy crap, a heart costs 10 million? I'm not even worth that much. He's the richest man's only son. The family's worth tens of billions. 10 million is just a drop in the bucket. I used to think this girl was so pitiful, her parents and sister gone, leaving her completely alone. I didn't expect there to be such a twist. And the girl isn't being greedy either. Her grandma's so old and she's still got school to handle, she only kept 1 million for herself and her grandma's care plus college stuff. And will split the rest among her relatives. No matter what, with all that money involved, whenever something comes up, these relatives will have to help the old lady and her granddaughter. That girl's pretty sharp. Grandma and Aunt stood there, completely stunned. Grandma kept shoving Aunt, go stop them. Can't let them cut out my son's heart. Auntie watched the bustling crowd, her own schemes clicking away in her head. She helped forge a fake death certificate and sent him overseas. Her brother had promised her 200,000 for her studies in Germany. If her brother's heart was really taken out, as his sister, she could still easily get close to 1 million. This was a far better deal than that 200,000. Might as well just let them have it. Auntie's eyes turned cold as she quickly soothed Grandma. With so many people around and cameras rolling, now's not the time to stop them. Anyway, they need to get him to our hospital first. Once we're at the hospital, I'll just sneak my brother out quietly. Grandma was worried, but hearing her aunt's words, she relaxed a little. Clutching her hand. You need to get to the hospital early tonight and stay longer. Don't let your brother really die. Mom, don't you worry. After sending Dad to the hospital, Grandma tried to get the relatives to leave first. Otherwise, how could the two in the ice coffin survive freezing all night? But none of the relatives wanted to leave, each insisting on staying to keep vigil. We didn't do much, so taking this cash feels kinda awkward. Let us keep watch longer to at least do our part. Let's stay a bit longer, it's our small way of chipping in. Yeah, we barely did anything and ended up with all this cash. Can't help but feel a bit guilty, you know? Auntie, go get some rest. We'll handle things out here. The relatives half persuaded, half guided Grandma back to her room. They grabbed some stools, sat down, and chatted in front of the morning hall. Uncles and aunties, have some more tea. Thanks for helping out tonight. I made a pot of tea and poured everyone a cup. To keep them awake and guard the funeral hall, just in case anything spooky jumped out at midnight. I glanced at the two bodies in the freezer coffin, letting a subtle smirk slip. The internet is flooded with news about the billionaire shelling out $10 million for his son's heart transplant. I'm really curious how Auntie's gonna get Dad out of the picture. Time flew by as everyone chatted. Early in the morning, the crematorium sent a van over to pick up the bodies. Everyone helped take my mom and sister to the crematorium. Grandma wanted to stop them but didn't know what to say, and Auntie wasn't there at the time. Granny was frantic, helplessly watching as Mom and sister were dressed in burial clothes and wheeled into the crematorium while everyone mourned. No cremation, they can't be cremated. Her eyes stayed locked on the furnace, muttering nonstop. Grandma, what are you talking about? I turned to face her. I got the premium package, private furnace for each. After they're done burning, we can go in and pick out the bones ourselves. Same goes for Dad once his surgery's finished. They can't be cremated, they can't, they're not even dead. Grandma muttered under her breath, so quietly only I standing right beside her caught it. I stayed silent, a faint smirk tugging at my lips. They're about to die, yet they still won't move. Just then, a crematorium staff member came rushing out, screaming. They're alive. They're alive. What the hell's happening? Right behind the staff ran out my mom and sister. They were both in funeral clothes, faces smeared with furnace ash, looking downright comical. The relatives who came along instinctively wanted to bolt, but then they probably remembered the hefty sum involved and stopped themselves dead in their tracks. Aunt Chen, can you tell us what's going on? A bolder-looking uncle pressed further, are they dead or alive? What kind of talk is that? Of course I'm not dead. Ruby couldn't hold back and burst out first. How could you just watch them send us to the crematory like that? Someone tentatively threw a stone at Mom, and only when she yelped in pain did they finally calm down. It hurts. They're alive. They're back from the dead. Everyone crowded around, staring at the two rosy-cheeked figures standing there completely unharmed. What's going on here? How come no one double-checked? Wasn't it the doctor auntie herself who signed off on the death papers? I let out a wail and threw myself at Mom, clinging to her tightly. Mom, you're alive. Thank God, you've got no idea how wrecked I was. Now I'm not some orphan after all. Hasn't my aunt been a pro doctor for years? How come she didn't even check if you were dead? You two were this close, to getting toasted in that furnace. What a shame, I thought they could keep up the act. My mom pushed me away impatiently and snapped, you dare say that? If it weren't for you, we would've. Then she caught herself and bit back the words. What were you gonna say? I put on a clueless face, tilting my head up at her like I was puzzled. It's nothing, nothing at all. My mother changed the subject, where's your father? Dad's heart was a match for the billionaire's son. They offered us $10 million for the donation, and he's probably getting the transplant right now. After I said that, it suddenly clicked for everyone. Holy crap, these two aren't dead? Then old Chen can't be, either? Doesn't that mean he's being dissected alive? When Mom heard this, her face fell and she hurried off to the hospital. Grandma whispered a few words in her ear, and her face relaxed a little. Mom. Let's get to the hospital and check on Dad now. The two of them looked much better, but I was getting anxious, leaving everyone confused for a moment. When we got to the hospital and saw Aunt standing outside the operating room, Grandma rushed over and grabbed her. How is he? How's your brother doing? Aunt looked at Mom and my sister, back from the dead, without showing any surprise, and said calmly, what else? The surgery was a success. The heart's been transplanted, and the patient's in the VIP ICU now. What? Grandma nearly fainted on the spot, clutching Aunt's arm and rasping through gritted teeth, your brother wasn't dead yet? You just let them carve out his heart? What the hell were you doing? Mom, what on earth are you talking about? The aunt's expression remained completely calm. He's already gone. I signed the death certificate. But wasn't this whole thing supposed to be fake? Mom blurted out. The media, who had been live-streaming the entire heart donation process and were about to leave, immediately perked up at the juicy scoop, swinging their cameras back around to lock onto the family. The person's in the morgue. Go see for yourself. The aunt's expression was odd, her eyes red-rimmed, but her face remained unnervingly calm. Mom rushed the group to the morgue. What they saw was Dad, lying there peacefully, heart gone and breath stilled. Oh man, it was supposed to be a fake death, but now he's really gone. I sighed to myself. The moment Grandma saw the body, she couldn't take it anymore and collapsed right then and there. Mom froze for a moment, then whipped around and slapped Aunt square across the face. How could you? How could you just stand by while they carved out your brother's heart? He was clearly sister-in-law. Aunt cut her off sharply, gesturing at the filming crew while staring straight into Mom's eyes and enunciating. The organ donation surgery was a success. The billionaire is thrilled and is throwing in an extra $5 million as thanks on top of the original $10 million. She hammered home the cash part. Mom suddenly realized and turned to the media nearby. On one side was her husband, on the other, $15 million. Torn between her options, she just passed out on the spot. Both of them were taken to the same ward after passing out, and the whole thing blew up online. Holy shit, they came back from the dead? Yesterday's live stream said 3 of the 4 family members were dead. How are the mom and sister suddenly alive now? I heard they only woke up when they were about to be sent to the crematorium. How could someone even screw up a death certificate? Thank God they woke up in time, or they'd have been burned alive. Wait a minute, have you guys noticed something off? The mom and daughter both woke up, but Dad's heart got donated. Holy crap, you cracked the case. They literally ripped the heart out of someone still breathing? Oh my God, this isn't some deceased organ transplant at all, it's a living organ harvest. No way, didn't the doctors notice he was still alive during the surgery? Some hospitals shocking live heart transplant, crazy. This matter blew up online, to the point that even the director who performed the surgery broke out in a cold sweat from shock when he heard the news. Before the surgery, they'd checked and confirmed the body was dead. Release a statement now, quick. The hospital promptly issued a statement addressing the live heart transplant allegations, stating they'd verified the donor was deceased before the procedure and confirming no vivisection occurred. They also disciplined the aunt for the misdiagnosis. The billionaire had also caught wind of the news but didn't bat an eye, casually dispatching someone to hand-deliver a $15 million check. The mood at home was somber, what was supposed to be a fake death had turned real. But now there was $15 million. Grandma was heartbroken. However, Mom and my sister were holding up fine. I even overheard them talking. Mom, we've got over $10 million now, can we go abroad to study dance right away? I want a Porsche, can you get me one? Of course, your dad in heaven would dote on his beloved little princess. Watching their loving mother-daughter act, I suddenly felt sad for Dad. He did everything for his little daughter, only to end up dead while she showed zero sadness, already scheming to buy a car with the blood money he paid with his life. Since when was life so easy? Just as Mom and my sister were scheming how to spend the cash, debtors started pounding on our door. They'd taken out a huge loan for their overseas plans, but when that fell through, Folks online caught wind of Dad's heart donation landing us 15 million. They all came to the house demanding repayment, and the place was completely swarmed. I stayed in my room while Mom and Grandma handled the creditors at the door, paying off each debt one by one. I came out after everyone was gone. They were sitting quietly on the sofa when Grandma suddenly slapped Mom hard across the face. "It's all your fault. You evil bitch talked my son into faking his death. You took my son from me. All because of you. Old hag, how can you say that? Was it all my doing? When your son brought this up back then, did you ever object? Now that he's dead, it's all my fault, is that it? You owe me my son. Why wasn't it you who died? Give him back to me." The old hag actually hit me. They started tussling. I watched from the shadows, too scared to break them up. When my sister came out to grab a popsicle from the kitchen, she just shot a disgusted glance at the two women yanking each other's hair. "Stop fighting. It's so freaking loud, you're wrecking my beauty sleep." After hearing her darling daughter's words, Mom shoved Grandma to the ground, not bothering whether the old lady had knocked her waist when falling. Then she turned and asked her precious daughter what she wanted to eat, saying she'd make it for her that night. "I want some boiled fish." After Mom and my sister were back in their rooms, I slipped out and helped Grandma to her feet. "Grandma, you all right? What were you and Mom even fighting about? And what was with all those people showing up earlier?" It's all fate, my son." Seeing Grandma's remorseful look, I faked comfort. "Don't cry, Granny. It's all bad luck. Mom and Sis got lucky with a wrong diagnosis. Dad just wasn't. They pronounced him dead." Sigh, Auntie, seriously. I asked her multiple times to confirm if he was really dead, and now this mess. Who knows if Dad was even alive during the surgery or how much he suffered. If we'd known, we would have gone to a different hospital for a proper checkup. This whole mess could have been avoided. Yeah, exactly. It's all that Sophie girl's fault. Grandma muttered under her breath a few times, her eyes suddenly blazing with fierce hatred. I comforted her a bit more, helped her to her room, changed, told Mom, and left for my summer job. The next thing I knew, the police called. "Is this Lily? You need to come to the police station, there's been a poisoning incident in your household." I hurried to the police station. "How many people are in your household? Where were you an hour ago?" "There are 4 of us including Grandma. Dad died yesterday. Mom won't cover my college tuition, so I'm working a summer job." I answered truthfully, "What's going on, officer?" Poor kid. This officer must have seen yesterday's news. His eyes softened with pity as he said, "Here's the deal, your grandma got pesticide and sleeping pills, dumped them in the food while your mom was cooking. Your aunt came for dinner, whole crew got poisoned. The neighbors found them, but by the time they got to the hospital, your grandma, mom, and sister couldn't be saved. Your Aunt Sophie had less poison in her system, they pumped her stomach and put her in ICU, but she might still have complications. Sorry for your loss. Yesterday I was almost an orphan, today I really am one." I signed the papers with the police watching. After claiming the body and arranging the cremation with their help, I ended up holding 3 ash boxes an hour later. I neatly arranged the 3 boxes of ashes with my dad's, lining up all 4 in the living room. Then I headed to the hospital to see my aunt. My aunt just had her stomach pumped and was still pretty weak. The doctor said the pesticide DDVP is super toxic and the damage is permanent, even if she pulls through now, she could still end up with complications. He told me to brace myself. When I walked into the ward, there was my pale aunt lying on the hospital bed. I sat beside her, and the room was just the 2 of us. My aunt seemed like she wanted to say something. I leaned closer and caught 2 words, study abroad. Even now, she's still obsessed with studying in Germany. Auntie, I know Mom and Dad faked their deaths. Ignoring her wide-eyed shock, I kept talking. I was thinking of teaching them a lesson, something like my mom's crematorium trip followed by a fake comeback. Then they'd be socially dead. It was such a coincidence my dad's heart matched the richest man's son. I knew he wasn't dead when they brought him to the hospital. I leaned in close to her ear. Never thought you'd be this heartless, Auntie, offing my old man just for a few $100,000. My grandma must have known all this, so she wanted to drag you all down with her son. What do you think will happen if I tell the police about this? Without waiting for her reaction, I stood up, straightened her blanket, and left the room. As soon as I stepped out of the ward, I saw doctors rushing in to start emergency treatment. In the end, my aunt died from complications caused by DDVP poisoning, her organs rapidly shutting down despite the failed resuscitation attempts. I carried my aunt's ashes back home, then washed all 5 neatly lined up ash boxes down the drain. I sold the house cheap, pocketed a couple million from the savings, and happily headed off to college. Now, who can stop me from going to school?